When it comes to diffs or rear axles, you've got a couple of options here. It's not as easy or as cheap to get an LSD diff head as it is in the UK. We can get them out of the UK, but postage here is just ridiculous. And to buy one here, you're looking at over $1,000, $1,000 to $1,500 just for a diff head or an LSD carrier to put into your diff. And then if you take it to a shop, they're going to want, up to a couple of grand to build you one. One of the advantages we do have here is that you can get hold of Australian assembled Cortina diffs, which are theoretically just a Borg-Warner Falcon diff. So you can integrate parts into it from the likes of earlier Falcons like the X series, XA, all the way up to like XF, and that as long as they're 25 spline. So I'll show you how I do it. So when it comes to diffs, you've got what is normally in the Mark 3, 4 and 5 Cortinas. I believe it's an Atlas diff. I'm not 100% sure what's the difference between the Atlas and the English, but I believe that is an Atlas diff. 25 splines, they're like a 32mm brake shoe. And then you get the Aussie one, which is a Borg-Warner. You can see the difference in the size of the heads in them. Both diffs use 25 spline axles, same flanges, different shock mounts, and obviously physical size in the brakes as well. These were the same drum brakes that they used on the Falcons, the early Falcons, the X series. But you can see the drums themselves are actually a lot physically bigger. No plate on top for the what's it called, bump stop, but it still hits the top of the diff. All of the arms and everything all bolt on. It bolts in the exact same. It's just physically bigger, and then the heads inside them are the same as the X series Falcon, so you can use XA up to XF LSD units, and then basically use that crown wheel on that, and then you got 3/7 gears with an LSD. Apart from that, it is a straight bolt-in. It's just you either got to run the Aussie shocks, or as I do, I just modify those plates. And here's the difference in the size of the brake shoes. The mass cylinders and the brake pipes and everything are all the same, both diffs. It's just physically the size of the drums and the shoes and the diameter. A bit more stopping power. So luckily enough, this diff's been apart before, so everything just came apart, but you can see the axles are pretty beefy, but still only 25 spline. I mean, they're good enough for a V8 turbo builds and stuff, but as soon as you start ramping horsepower into it, you're going to want a 9-inch. There's the dirty old single spinner. We pull it all apart and make sure that crown wheel fits the LSD, and then go from there. If you're pulling apart one of these diffs, or most diffs, you want to make sure you don't get these caps mixed up, put them to one side. The same with the bearing housing or whatever it is, the little collet sleeve for the bearing, and the spacers. There's shims or these spacers on each side. You want to make sure they go back in the same side. So you've got the open diff and the LSD. I'll check the crown wheel fits that first, and then if it does, I will then pull that apart, strip it, clean it, rebuild it. Luckily I've got these here, so you can pop, they're just made off old axles. You've got that one there, you can pop it on and undo all the bolts without having to hold it in a vise, and that one there for putting it all back together and checking the torque on the LSD. Excuse me. Okay, so I've tapped the crown wheel off the other one, and judging by all the holes lining up with bolts, this should work nicely. So I'll strip it all apart, give it a good clean, and then way together. I might videotape pulling it apart actually and stripping it, just in case someone's wanting to know how it's done. Okay, so what I want to do is, I want to take that bit, I usually just jam it in there, put that bit on there, and now being an LSD, it can't turn. You can see the crud build up there. I'm pretty sure that's the area that's been sitting out of the oil, and it's just built up a load of shit, so I'll give it a good clean up. Okay, so everything's been stripped, cleaned, checked. The main thing you want to make sure of is that this surface here and this surface on here, including that edge, look, that edge and that surface are cleaned thoroughly, because that needs to seat properly to that, otherwise you'll have a bit of a wobble. But everything is, like I say, I've just given everything a light spray of WD-40 and we'll just go ahead and put it together.
With a Johnny smile, old town knew she was proud. Smokestack blowing, echoes rebounding. We stood a common ground. She swung the width and the depth of a Grand Canyon in her step. Yeah, horsefly whipping, echoes rebounding. We stood a common ground. What's given at the end of the day, otherwise it's a blind shame. She swung the width and the depth of a Grand Canyon in her step. Yeah, horsefly whipping, echoes rebounding. We stood a common ground.
And that's the LSD rebuilt with 3/7 crown wheel. I ran into a bit of an issue at this point. The teeth, the pinion and the crown wheel weren't meshing. When you try to turn the pinion, there was just so much slop in there that I didn't think I could take it out by adjusting the pinion crush tube. So I looked at it again and did some measurements and found out that the actual diff that came out of it, unlike the one I did in mine, had a little bit of an offset ring on it, like this. So the difference is pretty much from that center line up. That's how much it's offset. So due to the offset of the open diff, I used the bearing race that came with this diff and then put the shims, both shims, on that side and took up the slack. So pretty happy with that. With my one, I made a little mount that went in here, and it was like a U-shaped bracket that just housed the shock in it. But I think I'm going to cut this off, drill it the same as that one there, and then just weld a plate across here as well, so that when you drill through, it's still going to locate it. The same as the other one, the same as what's on that diff there. And then the factory shock will be in the factory position. And then I might do the same with mine when I pull it out of my car. So I've cut the mounts off there. As you can see, that shape there is pretty much similar to the shape of that one there. So all I need to do now is make this in here the same as that there. Good to go. So those bits are all welded in now, and just gave it a bit of a clean, and then we'll give it a lick of paint. Well, there's the diff all painted. I've gone for a satin black, so everything should look nice and clean anyway. Anti-corrosive paint, much better. We'll see if we can get these cleaned up as well. I mean, they feel alright, but we've got a fucking state of them. Well, that cleaned up quite nice. I managed to just squeeze it onto the lathe backwards and sand up most of it. A look at paint, that'll come up nice. So some of the parts got painted as well. I thought I'd actually recorded some of that, but couldn't find it, so I'll put up some pictures here anyway. But I've ordered some new wheel cylinders and brake shoes, and to give you an idea, once they get here, a fully rebuilt LSD diff, bolt-in with basically upgraded brakes for less than $1,000. So it's not a bad way of doing it. I think I did mine for about 750 bucks. So it all depends on how much you can buy an Aussie Borg Warner Cortina rear axle for, and how cheap you can find an X Series 25 spine LST carrier. I know it's not the most interesting subject, but if you ever wanted to build your own diff, I kind of hope this helps. Don't be afraid to take them apart and have a look at them as well. Just kind of remember how they go back together. But I always like to pull things apart, check them, clean them, and then put them back together. Thanks for watching.